In this video, we'll discuss some of the music ideas of the Cat Power version of the song called Sea of Love. This is a great song to learn because all of the chords are major chords and they're played slowly. You can start with a rather simple version of the song, and as your skills develop, you can play other versions of the song. You can think of this video as an introduction to the ideas, and if you go to myguitarlessons.com, we step you through each of these ideas much as a physical guitar instructor would with you in a guitar lesson. The first music idea that we'll talk about is the first 4 notes of the major scale. And the reason why we're going to do this is because the chords are based on those 4 notes. So if we have a C note, which is at the first fret of the second string, we can play a major scale in C major, the first 4 notes. And the notes of a C major scale are easy to remember because there's no sharps or flats. So the first 4 notes of a C major scale are C, D, E, and F. So what you're going to do is skip some frets as you're playing. So you play the 1, skip a fret, skip a fret, and then you don't skip a fret. So it's a pattern of 3 notes separated by frets and then 1 adjacent. So this is the first 4 notes of the C major scale. C, which is the 1, D, which is the 2, E, which is the 3, and F, which is the 4. Next we'll play chord versions of the major scale, all based on the D-shaped chord. So you might be familiar with a D chord. We're only going to worry about the top 3 strings, strings 1, 2, and 3, for now. So this is a D chord. What you can do is take that chord and move down 2 frets, so your 2 fingers fall off the fretboard, so you're really only holding down 1 note on the second string. And this is a C chord. So that's a C major chord. You can see that as the top of the traditional C chord if you are familiar with that chord. So here is a C chord with the root being the 1 of the C major scale. So now let's move up to the 2 of the major scale on the second string and play a D chord. So that's the 2 chord. Move up 2 more frets so that the E is on the second string. That's the 3 chord. And then up 1 more fret so that the F is on string 2. And that's the F chord. So this is a very simple way to play chords, major chords. So C, D, E, F. So it's the same shape, and those are the 4 chords of the C major key if all of the chords were major chords. Next we'll talk about the chord progression. The same 4 chords are used throughout the Cat Power version of the song, which is interesting because the original version of the song is different. In the original version of the song, a verse contains 8 measures, and the first 4 measures are different from the second group of 4 measures. In the Cat Power version of the song, a verse contains 12 measures, but it's only the first 4 measures of the original song repeated twice for a total of 12 measures. So what Cat Power has done is taken the original melody and slowed it down and modified it slightly to fit the new chord progression. Another difference between the original version of the song and the Cat Power version of the song is that the original version of the song contains a chorus in addition to the verse, whereas the Cat Power version contains only verses. So in many ways, the Cat Power version of the song is a simplification of the original version of the song. So the first chord is the 1 chord. And if we're thinking about our major scale, those 4 notes, we can play a C chord as the first chord. The second chord is the 3 chord, so we're going to skip the D, the 2 chord, and go up to the E, which is the 3 chord. The 3rd chord is up another fret to the 4, which is the F. And then the last chord is the 2 chord, which was what we skipped earlier. And that's the D chord. So again, it's 1, 3, 4, 2. Those same 4 chords are used throughout the song. Next, we'll talk about the rhythm that's used in the song. The rhythm is a little bit unique in that it's syncopated, meaning that it does something you don't quite expect. So not all of the chords are played on the beat. And what's happening here is this song is in 4/4 time, which means that there are 4 beats per measure, and that each beat lasts for a quarter note. But even though there are 4 beats per measure, there are only 3 chords played per measure. So we have what we call a crossbeat, which is 3s and 4s happening at the same time. It takes a little bit of practice to get used to playing this, but if you think about eighth notes, it helps. So let's not even worry about holding down any notes on the fretboard. Let's just play the top 3 strings, which we could call an E minor chord. But we want to get the rhythm, so we don't need to worry about focusing on fretting at the same time as we're trying to get the rhythm. So first, if you play eighth notes, it sounds like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I'm playing downstrokes with the thumb and the upstrokes with the index finger. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now in this song, what's happening is the chord is played on the 1, then the next chord that's played is on the and of beat 2, and then the last chord is on the 4. So you're playing the first chord on a downstroke, the second chord on an upstroke, and then the last chord on a downstroke. And what you want to do is keep a nice steady motion to your strumming hand and only hit the chord 3 times, only hit the string 3 times per measure. So you want to count and only hit the strings on the 1, the and of 2, and on the 4. So it sounds like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Once you can play that rhythm quite comfortably, then you can start adding the chords to it. So it starts with the C major chord, just the top 3 strings. So far we've played the song in the key of C major using all D major shaped chords. And that is actually the key of the Cat Power version of the song, so you can play along with the song already. The voicings of the chords, the particular notes that are played will be different, but the key is correct, so it will sound like a different guitar playing something different, but matching the key of the song. Now let's, instead of playing all of the chords using the same shape, let's use the more full chords to play the song. And first, let's talk about the family of chords related to the C major key. So each key has a family of chords that work together in songs, and in the key of C major, the 1 chord is the C major chord, the 2 chord is the D minor chord. The 3 chord is the E minor chord. The 4 chord is the F chord. The 5 chord is the G chord. The 6 chord is the A minor chord. And the 7 chord is a B diminished chord. And then you're back to the C chord. So those are the chords of the family of C major. And notice that in this version of the song, we have the C chord, which is the 1. We have the F chord, which is the 4. But instead of an E minor chord, which would be in the key of C major, this is an E major chord. So this is what we call a secondary dominant. And what that means is that a chord that normally would be played as minor in the key is actually played as major or dominant. So this is a chord substitution that you can think of. So if you think about how the song is played, it's the 1 chord, then a major version of the 3 chord instead of the minor chord, then the 4 chord, and then the last chord is the D major chord. And that's not technically in the key of C major as well. So this is another secondary dominant where the D minor has been changed to D major. So if we think about the chord progression, it's the 1 chord, the major 3 chord, the 4 chord, and the major 2 chord. Now we can play a more full open chord version of the song instead of playing the D major shaped chords up the neck. For the F chord, instead of playing a full F chord, you don't really have to do that. You can just play just strings 2, 3, and 4, and then it's basically just taking a C chord and moving your fingers from strings 5 and 4 down to strings 4 and 3. So it's as easy as playing a C chord. And even if you let the E note ring, because that is part of the key, it's going to sound fine. That's actually called an Fmaj7 chord. So you're slightly modifying it, but that's also a chord that's in the key of C major. So playing the full version of the chords is C, E major, F, D. And then you can attach the once you can change quite comfortably, then you can attach the rhythm to those chords as well. Next, we'll talk about playing the chord progression using E-shaped chords. So as I mentioned earlier, this song can be played starting with very simple versions, and then as you progress, you can play more complicated versions of the song. So we started by playing just D-shaped chords, then we changed to the open position chords, and now let's change the key. So we know the chord numbers are 1, 3, 4, 2. So those numbers apply to any key. That's one of the reasons why you assign numbers to chords. So in the key of E major, the 1 chord is an E major chord. And you can visualize the root on the 6th string of the open 6th string. And what you can do is visualize that major scale, the same one that we were using earlier. You can visualize the 1 as the open string, so then the 2 is this note, which is an F sharp note. The 3 is a G sharp note, and then the 4 is an A note. So what we have is the first 4 notes of an E major scale. So now if we play our E major chord leaving our index finger free, so like this, then that's the 1 chord. We can slide up to the 2 chord, slide up again to the 3 chord, and slide up again to the 4 chord. And now we can use those chords to play the progression. So we start on the 1 chord, go to the 3 chord, move to the 4 chord, and then down to the 2 chord. So that's the chord progression in the key of E major. If you want to try to match the recording in pitch and in voicings of the chords, I believe she plays it with a capo on the 8th fret, and she's using those E-shaped chords as the home. So if you play an E chord with a capo at the 8th fret, that's as if you're playing a C major chord, because it's kind of like barring an E-shaped chord at the 8th fret. And on the 6th string, the 8th fret contains a C note. So this is a C major chord. So you can hear some of the voicings that are in the recording based on this capo being at the 8th fret. So the 1 chord is the E chord. The 2 chord is a G♯7 chord, which is played like this. It's a little challenging to play, but basically it's the E-shaped chord. The 1 note is here on the E string, is dropped to the flat 7, and that's where you get the flat 7 note for the dominant chord. So this is actually a G♯7 chord instead of a G-sharp major chord that she's playing. And G sharp can also be played like this, so it's basically a dominant chord played like this. So there's 2 ways to do it. It sounds actually like she's doing it both ways in the recording. And then the 4 chord is the A major shape, and which is actually an F sound, F major sound. And then the 2 chord is the F sharp major, but you can just play strings 2, 3, and 4, and it sounds like that. So that kind of matches the recording pitches and voicings. So those are some of the music ideas in the Cat Power version of Sea of Love. You can see that for such a simple song, there are quite a few ideas. I think that there's something to learn from every song, basically, and this is no exception. So if you go to myguitarlessons.com, we step you through playing the song, all the different versions that we talked about, starting from the very simple version to the more complicated versions. And you can track your progress along the way and learn all of the foundational material to really understand the song as you're playing it, and play it well because your foundation is strong.